What's up? This is a very different introduction to what you normally get for a video, because there is a whole video that you're going to watch. And then when we finished recording it, we were just sitting talking shit here on the program that we used to record this, and some news popped up. So we've done an entire episode about the EU RMR Closed Qualifiers. We've spoken a lot about teams that didn't make it. And then the news came out, Bdog, as we were sitting here, PARIVISION disqualified. So a lot of what we've said feels a little bit weird now and outdated.
Yeah, let's run the breakdown, right? PARIVISION had a banned coach. Finn is a banned coach from Valve events. Allegedly, he was in the room with them, and this all comes from a Twitter winning moment, recorded moment from PARIVISION, I think on their socials or from one of the players, where you could clearly see that there was camera staff in the room with them and the coach in the room with them. That's not allowed when you play the RMR Closed Qualifiers. You have to just have your 5 players. I don't even think the coach can be present at all. Anyway, Finn can't be present at all. Blood is banned from Valve events. So he was there. You quite clearly see him on the video. They've now done an investigation and they don't exist anymore. So all the bits that we said about it's cool for Art Frost, it's cool for Kicker, it's cool for Patsy, or see you later, bozos. Like, you can't cheat. Like, justice has been served. You can't have that. It's a shame because you feel like the experienced players would know better. The reality is that we've now got an exciting time on our hands because we've got Koi, Monte, Bleed all fighting to sort of kick into gear another shot, an opportunity at making the RMR. We don't know when the dates are going to be for these games. We did speak and we said it was horrible and heartbreaking for Bleed. I think it's important to kind of just again say now they've got another opportunity and they should make the most of it. If Bleed had been given this sort of insane opportunity, they need to make it happen. They're also the highest seed in that 2-3 games. They've got 1 best of 3. They don't have 2. They need to win that game. It's as clear as that. They need to win that game.
I'll just say it. We said in the episode about how people are going to come on hard on Kassad and they shouldn't. Haha, joke's on you because there's a second chance. But now we're going to get to the actual episode. But we thought that you should have some context before it begins. So now you can watch us. Welcome to another episode of Sell Me This Pro. And we're just changing everything today because it's our show and we can do what we want. What's up, Bdog? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm glad that you kind of jumped on this with me because I was like, do you know what? I came to you with the idea of this show. And I was like, fuck it. I want to change it for this episode because it's all relevant, right? It's the RMR.
I love it because that's the thing. The RMR close qualifiers have happened, and we've seen all the EU teams competing over the weekend. That's kind of what you wanted to speak about, was what we've seen from a tier 2 point of view. Some of the teams, obviously some of the players we've actually spoken about in previous episodes featuring as well, which is kind of exciting. So we're going to talk about all the drama, all the things we saw, the things that excited Bdog, the things that excited me. And we're going to start off with what excited me because I do love a little bit of spice and chaos. And I love that Counter-Strike is like one giant soap opera. We got to see this just before these qualifiers started with this weird Aurora 9 Pandas. What was it? There was results. This player, he's going to 9 Pandas, then he's suddenly back at Aurora, then he's at 9 Pandas like a couple of hours before he's meant to play. It was mental. Even if you don't watch tier 2 and you have no idea who these orgs are, like, you can enjoy this. The absolute drama behind the scenes. What exactly went on there, Bdog? Because it was crazy.
I mean, I don't know. Like the thing with this is just tier 2 CIS teams sort of in a nutshell. To be honest, a lot of them have got big personalities and bigger egos than they probably deserve based on what they've achieved so far in their career. And you kind of get this where players will go and talk to orgs or like teams will go and reach out to players and they won't conduct any sort of form of communication. So what I think has happened, and this is based on what I could find online through Telegram, through Twitter. So if it's not 100% right as the time of recording this and we've got new info, like we'll update it. But from what I know, it was basically 9 Pandas manager reached out to Result. Result previously played with Xiaofi, who's the new in-game leader for 9 Pandas on 4s. And he was like, I want you to come and play for my team. And Nine Pandas have been playing really well since they swapped Seized and brought Xiaofi in. And Result has got a lot of firepower. Like he's a very good player in tier 2. But Aurora have been struggling recently form-wise. So Result was like, that sounds like fun. Nine Pandas obviously made the last sort of major cycle, but then couldn't go due to unfortunate sort of like travel visa issues. But they know what it takes to kind of qualify. And Aurora have already directly qualified through to the RMR, by the way. So it's actually a harder path for him because he then needs to go through the closed quals. Anyway, he decides that he's going to go. They make this deal to swap Clax, and Clax goes to Aurora. Result goes to Nine Pandas. This all just sort of happens on the spur of the moment. I think there was a lot of money involved in this, but also they kind of had to trade Clax to sort of facilitate the transfer fee. I feel like one of those footballer like insider people. I've got no clue really. But basically on Telegram then you've got all these Aurora players basically calling Result like a snake and a rat. Because finally they can focus on practice and finally they can sort of be a team again because they haven't got one guy who's like trying to rip everything open internally, which is amazing. Flammus from GamerLegion came out and said he understands why Result wanted to leave because apparently in like scrims everyone was like trolling, but that was like in a knife round and like warm up when the game wasn't even live, so I don't know about that. And then Result was just kind of saying that he wanted to go. There was this weird Telegram post where the deal fell through. So, for whatever reason, Aurora and Nine Pandas couldn't get it done initially. Result basically was like, bad things happen to good people. I can't believe this. I'm going to go walk out in the street and see if I get lucky or something.
He said something about, I think I read an interview that he's now done during the media day of the Bitboom Dasher events where he said he just wanted to, it looked like this deal was going to fall through. He would then be benched, so he wouldn't be able to play. And he made some comment, this is obviously translated, where he was like, I wanted to walk out in the street and get a hobo to stab me. And I was like,
yeah.
What the fuck is happening?
Yeah. So it basically what it was the deal wasn't happening. And we'll come on to why it wasn't happening in a moment. But it's all drama and it's all funny, so you got to kind of just talk about all of it. But he was going to be benched on Aurora. They were originally Aurora going to bring Grix in from Aurora Youngblood, which is a player that I wanted to talk about and we will talk about in a later day. But he was going to go and be an AWPer for Aurora during the RMR, and Deco was going to swap to rifle it. Like that is what was going to happen. And then in a dramatic turn of events, literally I think 20 minutes before the closed qualifier game, Nine Pandas put out this announcement and they were like, we've got Result, they've got Clax. The reason why it didn't happen initially was not financial, guys. It was a breakdown in communication. I think there's been a breakdown in communication from the very start of this, to be honest.
Fair.
And now we've got Result, now they've got Clax. Enjoy, pretty much. And then Result played in the open qualifiers. There wasn't a hobo that stabbed him. He was actually playing Nuke within 30 minutes of posting that Telegram post. So he's fine. Nine Pandas made it through the RMR as well, so now they'll be there. And yeah, he put out an article like today from Petboom Dasher saying, I've moved to Nine Pandas to fuck ever even harder than I do now, which is cool. Great, man. Enjoy.
I read that interview, and again, it's obviously translated, so lots of things out of context, but what sort of stuck out to me, and it does fit nicely into the sort of tier 2 conversation that we always have, was him saying like he alludes to the fact that certain players on Aurora weren't taking it seriously. He wanted to work in a different setting. I mean, the fact that he was willing to give up his guaranteed RMR spot to go play in a closed qualifier with another team in the hope of getting into the RMRs just shows that it obviously like there was a breakdown amongst the team. But it threw me back to ESL Challenger, which we did a while back, where the Aurora was playing. Like this was a conversation that came up. I was Zhangping, yes. ESL Challenger Zhangping, I have to remember sometimes. And this was something that came up during this tournament. Was they had a moment where there was an interview, and the one comment was, "Oh well, one of the players for the first time ever like watched a demo, and that was why they played better that day or something." And I still remember going, you're kidding, right? Like, you need to take this a bit more seriously. There was a lot of narrative around the fact that Aurora has a particular player that can get tilted very easily, that isn't very communicative, that doesn't
Deco.
watch demos. Deco doesn't think that he needs to. There was that whole conversation and how, as a team, like they're prone to tilting. Like, those things all came up, but obviously for Challenger, we're playing it very nice. It's all about lifting up. We didn't say it. What I wanted to say at the time on the desk is, are you effing kidding me? Like, if you want to be taken seriously, if you want to compete with the big dogs in Tier 1, like, suck it up, Buttercup. Like, start doing your homework, work a bit better. So him, Result now coming out and having this interview, saying all of this stuff, I went, oh, well, I mean, the writing was on the wall a couple of months ago. Surely you've got one player who maybe is taking this a bit more seriously and frustrated. Of course, again, I'm not sitting in the practice room. I don't know what's actually going on, but those were all little bits and pieces that you pick up along the way. In South Africa, we have a saying called picking up stompies, which is basically cigarette butts, like picking up cigarette butts.
Right.
You don't know actually the story. You're just picking up the butt and trying to guess what happened, I guess.
All right, cool.
So yeah, that was where I was sitting. I'm worried about Aurora, though. Do you think that losing Result is going to matter much to them?
I think it'll matter. I think it'll matter like quite a bit because he's one of the best players in terms of firepower wise on that team. Clax has got a pretty decent work ethic from what I know, and I think he's a pretty consistent player. The issue is that he's only started sort of being a little bit hit and miss in the last sort of like month and a half, because when they went on that RMR run, he was brilliant. Towards the back end of Go, he was fantastic. Like, I really, really rated Clax for quite a while. And when I heard the news, I was like, oh, they're swapping Clax. I was like, damn. And then I thought about it and I was like, well, you are getting an upgrade. Like, I think Result is definitely an upgrade here. To add even more little drama to the mill as well, I remember just as you were talking that Result, there was alleged rumors he bought out his contract on Aurora to then go and play for 9Pandas. I don't know how true that is, but if he did, like, interesting. But also, like,
I think
that's a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah, no, he did say in an interview that he heard that rumor as well. It's not true.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that was true.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's a curious one from a 9Panda side. I mean, they've obviously got an upgrade, right? Like you mentioned. So they've now qualified for the RMRs. That puts them, do you think it puts them in a good position for potential major qualification?
This team is very good. This team is like very, very good. And even though we've got like the soapbox, like drama BS, I'm glad it will just sort of die down and you can just focus on the CS, because 9Pandas are a very, very good team now. Like, this is really cool. Like, you've got the dynamic of Xiaofi in-game leading. You've got iDisbalance, and people have been hating on iDisbalance recently. iDisbalance is one of the most experienced AWPers, just sort of in tier 2 for CIS. Like, he's played so much, and I think, sure, he can go missing like sometimes, but I think the value he brings in terms of his experience, in terms of just sort of, obviously he has been on this team for quite a while. He's got a really good connection with all these guys. But in the big games, I think he actually does pop up a lot more. And it's not the fact that he's going to get like 30 kills a game. It's the fact that he's going to be maybe getting like just under 20, but he's not going to be making any silly mistakes. iDisbalance is an AWPer that is very good at sort of playing the percentages in CS. And I think that value specifically goes under the radar quite a lot when people just kind of look at stats and just go, oh, okay, well, he's not played amazing recently. Why is he not popping off? Why is my GOAT AWPer not being a GOAT AWPer? And it's like, well, because that's not the role he plays.
And from a visa point of view, they shouldn't be experiencing the same problems they experienced for the Copenhagen Major, because it's obviously going to be in Shanghai. So fingers crossed that we'll actually get to see. Well, let's see what they have to qualify first, but maybe 9Pandas, if they do, we get to see them at a major now. Let's move on to some of the teams we aren't going to be seeing because they didn't make the RMRs, Bdog. And I think the big one, this is meant to be about tier 2 teams, but hell, they're playing like a tier 2 team, so I think that we can throw ENCE into the mix here. Were you surprised that they didn't qualify?
No.
Why?
Not at all. Shout out Trav as well, because kind of he shared the same sentiments as me. I didn't think ENCE were going to make it. I didn't think maybe Monte was going to do it either, because of the recent change that they've made. What it was one of Trav said it was one of ENCE or Big that wouldn't make the RMR, and it turns out it was ENCE. And Yeah, it's one of those where this team has not looked good since its inception, and I wonder how much of that is because the talent recruitment done by ENCE, I think, was primarily Snappy and Saw when they were there, and it was the amount of trust that the players had in Snappy and Saw. And you go to ENCE, and now you've kind of swapped out those guys for Glaive and Cuban, and I think ENCE wanted to go in a different direction. I think ENCE wanted to sign the 9 core originally. I'm not sure how much validity this is, but I think K was also supposed to go over there from 9, and then he didn't. So then they had to land on like different pieces and all of this. And yeah, you had the instability in the roster where Diha left because he just wasn't comfortable with the team. And then you needed to get SDY, which I think is a really good pickup. I know SDY has got a lot of praise. Like, he's one of the most hardest working players in tier 2. Like, he's consistently looking to improve. He wants to play all the games. Like, he went and did that with Monte, right? So it's a shame for him more than anything. It is just it has never looked right. It has never looked right. And when you've got maybe Poddy and SDY kind of giving you the most amount of output, but if one of those players goes missing, you can't rely on the players that you think that you've signed to bail you out of situations, Goofy, Kylar. Then what are we doing here? It's a mess, and it's a shame because it's one of those where you always want the team to do well because you've got Glaive there, but it just is not working. He's not got the same players that he did in Astralis. People will go, lol, Glaive washed. It might be an element of that. But at the same time, these players are not performing up to the level that they were about a year ago. And maybe CS2 really hindered a lot of these players, but we can't have that excuse anymore. It's been out a year, guys. Like, I don't know. I didn't expect it. I did expect it. I didn't expect them to make the RMR. You just kind of look at the team and you think, that's it. Just, all right, they're there.
Hear me out. I'm feeling very sassy today, so you're going to have to deal with this. I mean, I sort of feel like if you're an ENCE fan, if you were an ENCE fan, you need to take a look at Falcons and what they did at the start of this year. Because all roads lead back to, I feel like Falcons did the dirty in that entire situation with all the talk around the super team and what they were going to do. Look at all of the collateral damage that occurred from that conversation. ENCE is broken. Heroic. I blame the shell that is Heroic on what happened there. Like, that's a mess. And there's a couple of there's a few teams that have now fallen into this because there was all of that talk of how there's going to be the super team. Snappy's going, Nico and Manassi are coming. Then Nico and Manassi aren't going. Then that ends. Glaive goes into ENCE thinking he's getting Sun Pious,
Madden,
Nerds, Madden. Like, this is going to be this mad, crazy. That's gone. It's broken, right? He doesn't get that. Then this is alleged. So actually, let me just be very careful before I just run my mouth. It's alleged that it was meant to be a Sun Pious, Madden, Nerds move to Heroic. That doesn't happen. You see that trio broken up. And now what you've got is Falcons, which is, and I'll say it, is absolutely dog shit and performing so badly. Heroic, who just they do actually have really good pieces, can't seem to figure it out and make it work. The team looks super sad every time I see them play. And then you've got this ENCE mess up. And I feel like Glaive was done dirty here because I don't think Glaive is washed. I do think Glaive's got some good pieces. I think SDY is a phenomenal player. I think Poddy is really great, but it just feels like it all goes back to this very loud, very flashy, lots of money being thrown around. And Kassad actually said it on an episode of another show I do, Feed the Trolls, where he said, like, Falcons screwed the market completely. I don't think that they only screwed the market. I think that there is a lot of these teams that have lost all form. I do believe this is like the first time in 6 or 7 years or something absurd that ENCE won't be at the RMRs.
Yeah.
That's mind-blowing. Like, just insane. So yeah, like, they're not going to be there. And then you mentioned another team that I have always had a little bit of a soft spot for. They don't quite look the same anymore. Monte. They had that like deep run at the last CSGO major. I feel like they grind so damn hard. And obviously them also not qualifying. Surprised there. I get the impression you kind of were expecting that one as well.
So the reason why I'm saying I'm expecting that one is because maybe like a few days before they even start playing this qualifier, Stiko leaves because the team wants to become Polish. And I wonder I wonder how much of this is Deha influence. Just because I've got no evidence to back this up. I'm not saying it's him. This is all Brandon just kind of talking out loud. But he left ENCE.
Join my club. It's fun here. We just say random things.
He left ENCE because he wasn't kind of enjoying how that was working. He was speaking English there, obviously, when it was going well, kind of with Snappy. And then you bring Polish guys over into ENCE, but you're not going to be speaking Polish because Glaive is there, and Glaive don't speak Polish, so you have to speak English again. And then it's like, oh, I don't know, like we were having really good times, and now we're playing like shit, so I'll leave and I'll look somewhere else. He then joins Monte, then they kind of get some more Polish players in, and he goes, oh, this has been really good. And then Stiko kind of leaves, and they want to go in that direction for like Polish CS. Demka's learning Polish, from what I understand, which is cool. They brought in Kai, or K, I think it's K, from Nine, and he was the guy that I was actually really like shocked that he didn't go anywhere when the Nine sort of roster broke apart and moved, because he was a big reason for their success. And K, I think, wants to play in Polish projects rather than international projects. That's kind of a discussion I was having with like a few people just during the RMR Closed Qualifier, and it was like, K's been invited to join several projects, but he doesn't want to because he wants to play Polish. So you've got a core of Polish players there for Monte. K's a really good prospect. Cut Stiko, bring him in. Demka's quite committed to Monte as an organization, so he's going to stay and just adapt to whatever. Point being, though, is that you change your language, or you're communicating half in Polish, half in English during your RMR cycle. Also, how much prac have you had with K? Probably not a lot. How much is this going to affect the team? An awful lot. So there's too much turbulence going on in that organization, and they have got the firepower to bail them out. But at the same time, you feel like Demka's numbers are going to naturally just take a little bit of a hit. D has been playing okay, but I don't think he's the same Deha he was like a year ago. So you can't expect him just to hard carry every game. And K is a very good player, but you're not going to anticipate him to be up to speed with all the strats in the limited time that they've had. So can he use his firepower and offset it with knowing exactly what's going on all the time? No. So therefore, you've got all these extenuating circumstances that are going to be sort of in subconscious, these players' heads, and also in the moment of, do I comment Polish here or English? Is Demka dead? I've got to press tab. Like these very small little things that might just all add up into lost rounds, therefore lost results, therefore no RMR.
Finally, we're focusing on the teams that didn't make it, and we'll get on to some of the good stuff in a bit, but I do want to touch on this one as well. A team which technically some would argue tier 1, but I'll say it, once the open circuit occurs, I don't think we'll see this team much in tier 1. I definitely think they fit firmly in the tier 2 bracket, and that's OG. They obviously, I think when the partner leagues end, they'll be having to grind a lot of the tier 2 stuff. They didn't make it through either. I'll say it, I wasn't that surprised, but I'm curious, Bdog, how are you thinking about OG not getting into the RMRs?
Kind of anticipated it to a certain extent, and I was actually really excited for them when I saw that they were sort of competing for a chance to make it. What did they go? They went 2-3, and you look at that and you think, okay, that's pretty cool. And that was even after losing the opening game to Saw, where they were down. I think they were down like 10-0. And then came back and like 13-7. Like, it's not a big comeback, but it's better than being 10-0 down, right? The cool thing about OG is that they've signed Crizzen from Mouse NXT. Mouse NXT, a team in tier 2 that has just been owning everyone. They played like one of the most maps just in HLTV like this year. Like they are grinders, notoriously good at it. Crizzen has improved his firepower an awful lot, and he's also in-game leader for that team. And he'd improved his firepower so much that he was like consistently like even top fragging like like a couple of the series, maybe like 40-50% of the series, like he was just destroying people like in one map. And that's really cool to see out of your in-game leader. Also, the calls from Mouse and XT were always really solid. They make these deep runs to sort of in like CCT series. The question for always Mouse and XT was what's next, because you've made playoffs now in these events. Can you go and win one? You've made some semifinals, you made some quarterfinals. Like, we actually expect more now out of this academy team whose average age is like 17 or something. Like, go and do it. Go and win an online cup. Like, go and lift it, right? But Crizzen, he moved. It looks like Mouse and XT are feeder teams to OG at the moment because Nexius went there. Now you've got Crizzen that's gone there. And initially when I saw this move, I was actually really upset because I was like, Crizzen deserves better than OG. But, and a big but, is I think they've made some good moves. I like Buzz in this team a lot. I like Fiku, even though people are going to probably hate me for that. I actually think Fiku is an okay player. I don't think he's mind-blowing, but I think he does the job. Nexius, fine. Used to work with Crizzen, if I'm not mistaken, so that connection's there. I think Buzz will listen to Crizzen and respect him a lot. I like it, and I think Modo is a very solid team player. So that it makes sense why this team has actually come together. And since Crizzen has joined for the first time, OG have won games, which I think is really exciting for them. I'm trying to look actually and scroll back to the last time they won a game before he joined. You can see me looking at the right-hand side of my monitor, guys. Wow. April 20th, 2024 was the last time they won a game. And then Crizzen joined, and they started doing well. Like, they obviously beat Amcal, but that was the coach at Showdown. They took a map of Passion UA, a team that is firing on all cylinders. Obviously beat Heroic as well. Like, they're doing good things. And the good thing about that is I think Crizzen's been in the team like 20 days. So it's like, okay, well, you're getting this immediate success. What's this going to look like for OG? I don't think we're going to see them in tier 1, as you said, but I think they could be a contender to sort of make a name for themselves and try and earn that respect back that has been kind of tarnished by having these partner league spots. So the future, I think, is a little bit more exciting for OG. I'm not sitting here saying they're going to be world beaters. What I'm sitting here saying, don't be surprised if you see them kind of taking maps off teams, not the big dogs, but sort of more in tier 2.
You're going to have to do some online grinding, though, because obviously their run of the major is done. So for a lot of these teams, that's now you're stuck with some of these online cups because not much more on offer. I know that Crizzen is a player that you actually want to feature on Selling This Pro at some point. So we won't talk more about them. Let's talk about GamerLegion, because they've had a nice mix-up. They've now qualified as well. They've had a mix-up of players, some new blood. It's a young team. I know Coach Ash has said he's building from the ground up. I kind of like what I'm seeing, if I'm honest, and obviously now qualified to the RMRs as well. That's a big step up for them.
Yeah, I like the GamerLegion team quite a lot, and the reason why I like it so much now is because they got ZTR, and he's a brilliant in-game leader. I feel like he is definitely slept on quite a lot, and I feel like he is deservedly getting his flowers after that RMR game against Bleed, because my goodness me, that was one hell of a game. I was watching it on like one of my friends' streams, and ZTR was making some brilliant calls in the mid round on Mirage, because that was a massive comeback. I think they were down 12-3 or 11-3, something in that vein. They go on to win the game from that point. Like, that is unbelievable. There was this one round where ZTR was in B apps, and it looked like he needed to get 1 kill, and he got 4, and he got like all of them. And I think he had like an MP9 or an M4. I don't know. It's on GamerLegion's Twitter. Go and watch it. It's insane. Bleed crumbled. We can talk about that in a moment as well. But this team's great. I think Volt is he's proved himself that he's a very dependable player. Has got the ability to pop off. Andu, I think, is a guy that has kind of come from like the Estonian scene. He kind of played on the same teams as like Fates. He was sort of over there for a little bit, and he got his call up. I think that's deserved as well. I think that he's definitely a player to sort of watch, because he can be very aggressive in moments, and that's something that GamerLegion sometimes need, because you need to strike a balance with this team. The difficulty I've now got with GamerLegion is you now need ZTR to kind of rein all this in and kind of experiment having too much aggression versus not enough, because Flammus, incredibly aggressive player. That is a fantastic signing, by the way. Like, I haven't spoken about this topic actually with the Flammus signing to GamerLegion, but saw him at Chengdu. Thought he was brilliant. I've seen him in tier 2 as well before that. I've always rated him quite highly. He gets this move to GamerLegion. I think it's brilliant. And I think he maybe have got that sign in, that move, because of how well he did in Chengdu. Even though Namiga didn't sort of play the best at that event, the fact that he was able to put a spotlight on himself. And that's the big thing for sort of these tier 2 teams that don't really get the shots in sort of like the S tiers. When you do, you've got to kind of use that as your audition tape, as yours kind of selling point. This is why I'm good. This is why I can do this. And sure, you know, you got coaches, you've got talent managers that might be looking deeper into sort of tier 2 CS, but it's so much easier just to have a case study against the best teams in the world, isn't it? So this team's cool. The average age has come down significantly because obviously Snacks has left. Didn't know how this was going to go. I think Snacks is a lot more chill of an in-game leader than ZTR. ZTR will be a lot more hands-on, but I think that'll be for the greater good of GamerLegion, because you need these guys to be micromanaged at the start so they don't overextend and make silly mistakes. And you are going to see GamerLegion make silly mistakes for the next sort of 3 months, but it's all part of the learning process. I think in 6 months, I always like to give teams time. I think if this team makes no changes in like 4 months, 6 months, like, they'll be really good. And I think they're going to be good at the RMR as well.
So I hate it when people do this and post it online, but each to their own. I'm going to do it now. So here we go. This is my little notebook, and you saw me looking down while Bdog was talking. And what I do is, for every episode that we record of this show, of any of my other shows, I write notes just to remind myself what we spoke about. But then when I work events, I write like very crib notes about what to expect on day one. And then I always do a follow-up. And we actually got to see, so when I finish the day, I sit down and I just write down notes of like what happened, so that in cases like this, I can go back. And I remember writing, that's what I wanted to go check here, where I was like, we had to watch GamerLegion on day one play Vitality, which is holy shit. And I still remember writing here, like, stand our calling from ZTR. I wrote it, I underlined it, I was so impressed. But the thing that I remember, and the reason why I wrote this down, was because in the interview leading into the game, in the pre-match interview, they were talking with Ash, the coach, and how he had built this team from the ground up. They brought in ZTR. They completely changed everything because of strats, calling. Literally just before they went in to go play Vitality, they had changed all of this up to try and revitalize the team. And they were able to take a map off Vitality, which is really impressive. And I remember just being like, this is an interesting team for the future. I think GamerLegion gets a lot of flack sometimes, but they do have, and I'll give credit to Ash, I guess, from a coaching perspective, he does have an eye for new talent. And I think exactly like you said, Bdog, if this team stays together for 6 months or more, they could be a really fun contender as one of those upset teams next year. I think that's kind of where I would place them. There were some other teams as well that we need to speak about. And I love the fact that we get to bring this up because we spoke about this team last week, cruising into the RMRs Sangal.
Yep. I mean, was there any doubt, really? Like, let's be honest. The only conversation question I had with Sangal at the qualifier was, are they going to go 3-0 or are they going to, like, go through 2-1? And it's way better, obviously, to go through 3-0. But for this team, for the trajectory that they're on, for the confidence they're currently in, you're heading into Pro League and, like, next week. Like, it is so important for them that they get through, like, completely clean, and they did. 3-0 is fantastic for these guys, and they were down against BC Game, which is obviously the funny Joel team that don't have Joel anymore. They're now playing with Quez, I think. They were down. They had to force OT, and then as soon as they got OT, they just rolled them. Like, it was really impressive to watch. The qualifying run, I will say, it was kind of easy. You've got one win that are kind of all sorts at the moment, and I don't know what's happening with that one win team, because I'm really sad, because I really want that one win team to do well. I've said it on cast so many times. I'm like, I love one win, this team's really cool, and then they shit the bed, and it makes me really sad. You got Hobbit in that team, guys. You got Buster, like, generational talent, Buster, and you can't win a game. So that's sad. I was sad for one win. Anyway, BC game up next. That's an easy one. So they did that. They were able to force the comeback. Also, Sassanito played amazing in that game. And then they had to go against Bleed. And what a shame for Bleed, because they started 2-0, they ended 2-3. But that was 13-10, 13-11. Jota popped off in that game. We kind of spoke about him last week as well, and how good he is. And he was unbelievable. It was Jota X Cloud kind of just getting the team through those days. But yeah, for a team also that plays so much online CS, it's good to kind of just go through as soon as you can, so you can have a little bit of a rest and get ready for the tier 1 events. But never in any doubt, Sangao, see you pro league.
Did your heart break a little bit for Bleed?
Yes,
with this particular
massively.
run? I mean, mine too. I feel. Yeah, I mean, I'm not feeling thank you. I can say that much. They're obviously not in. They're missing the RMRs as well.
Massively. And the way that they lost was also just so horrible, because they were down on Inferno, which was their map pick, I believe, and they forced it to OT and couldn't close. And then on Mirage, they were up. It had to have been like 12-11-3, and they couldn't close. And it is just so horrible to watch, because they do this a lot in recent weeks. They just can't close games. This one is when it matters most, when it's all on the line. It's the ultimate crumble. And I don't mean that horribly at all, because it is such a shame, because these players are better than that. These players deserve to show what they can do at the RMR. And it is such a shame, because they didn't make it, and now they're just going to get clowned on and memed on, like so will Kassad, because like I think Kassad's been brilliant. Like I'm going to sound like I'm glazing him, but I think the transfers he's been able to make has been unbelievable. Like you're telling me that you can go and get JChem and Nork to this team on top of Cypher. Nexa in G2 has had so much tier 1 experience. He was pretty okay in OG, and you kind of put him in over Favon, who has kind of been hit and miss due to sort of medical issues and bits and bobs alike outside of the server. Like, it feels like it is a like for like, and it's a shame, because Nexa has individually not been performing as well. In fact, even worse against worse playing teams. But he's kind of been through a lot in the shitstorm that is the community sometimes. But with that aside, he should still kind of be able to put that out of his mind. He's a professional player. He should be able to kind of play against these worst teams, quote unquote, and do better. And you got obviously Cypher, and him making a second RMR would be brilliant. Like, that'd be really cool to see if Cypher could do that, just from the biased UK CS grassroots community point of view. We've got Volt. We'll still claim him, even though he's got Romanian on his flag. He lives in the UK, so we'll have him, I guess. But no matter what happened in that GamerLegion Bleed game, UK won and UK lost. But Bleed ultimate losers, and it's a shame, because they deserve better. That team deserves better, and now they don't get to show it. And that's the heartbreaking thing about the whole situation.
For sure. And like you said, the community's just, because of Kassad being as outspoken as he is, they're just gonna absolutely meme on the team, which feels extremely disingenuous and unfair. But
Yeah.
we continue to focus on some of the teams that made it. Some of the players as well that we've had featured here on the show, they're in the RMRs. I mean, for you, who are you most excited about when you look at this list of teams that have qualified?
Great question, because there's so many, right? Obviously, 9 Pandas. I know we just spoke about them, and we haven't really spoken about them on the show, but that's cool. Cloud9 made the RMR really easily. That's really good for the team that they made it through easily. I see. Shout out episode 1 OG.
That's right. One of the first. He was one of our first players. We were super nervous and we didn't know what we were doing. We spoke a bit about him, and Cloud9 seeming to find a little bit of footing and able to make it through relatively easy. So that's a positive sign for them.
The most surprising thing, actually, I think, is Group A in these closed quals, because you got Sinners that went 3-0, and Oscar had the best time. Bro dropped like a 2 rated in the qualies. Like, he was lights out. You think about the results as well, right? They went against Bait. Bait with I want to talk about Bait. Just this is really fun because we're obviously having this conversation. I'm just saying to you, like, we're in like a meeting. I want to talk about these players as well in a separate episode, Sam. You've got MPL, you've got Head Trick. A Head Trick has not had a negative rating since joining Bait. I think at the time of this recording, so that's awesome. He's been playing amazingly. That team, you feel like it's always going to go and make it through. 13-3, says Sinners. See you later. This is Sinners, by the way, with changes incredibly recently, maybe like a month and a half, if that. They brought in Morisco, and Morisco has just kind of said, oh, I don't have the experience at this level, but I'm being told what to do. I'm being guided by B-Stick. B-Stick, a really good in-game leader. And then you've got Oscar, who is rolling back the years, and he's like 2.0 rating. Mikey's also on that team. Mikey came from Sinners Academy. He's been there maybe like 4 months now. And he can kind of just go in. He replaced Neofrag, I think. And Neofrag, probably less said about him, the better. But Mikey can be pretty aggressive. He can take control, and he looks like he's a confident player, which is really interesting. It actually creates an interesting dynamic between Morisco, who wants to be a confident player but is settling in, versus Mikey, who's incredibly young, same sort of level of experience, if not more inexperienced than Morisco, and he's just going, yeah, I own this bit of map control. I own Banana. So yeah, this team's cool. I really like Sinners, so I'm happy for them. PARIVISION making it through, I think, is good for that organization, good for some of the players on that team. Kicker, Patsy, Art Frost as well from Spirit Academy. So that's really good. And then Bait, I just spoke about them briefly. They made it through. And one final one I will throw in as well, which I think is an interesting story. TSM 0-2 down made the major. Sorry, made the RMR. So shout out them, because they played some very good CS to get there. And it was difficult. They had to win 3 best of 3s. They didn't drop a map whilst doing it.
Now, I kind of want to make your life a little bit difficult, just because it feels like a good idea to do it. Okay, so hear me out. The show is called Sell Me This Pro. So,
sure.
Choose your favorite player from the closed qualies that's made it through. Who would it be if we were to throw out a name that you're like, damn, I'm so glad to see you in the mix?
Okay, right. I've got to pick one that isn't Sangao. A favorite player.
You can do Sangao if you want. You can do. I mean, even if we featured them before, you can throw them into the mix.
Do you know what? I will go with Bait, because I think Bait is a really good team, and I really like what I've been seeing out of them. They've been playing incredibly just consistent CS, but also on a grand quantity of things. I literally just opened their HLTV page and they're playing now, for God's sake. So this team is great. You know Head Trick, you know MPL. I want to give a special shout out to Alex 666, in-game leader for this team, and he had one of the most monstrous performances in that qualifying game to get through. They were playing Monte, if memory serves. Yes, 2-0 Monte. First map, 13-11. Second map, it was Monte's map pick and Mirage. Bait won 13-1. And Alex 666 won 18-5. Like, that is absolutely unbelievable. I think it's fun because we talked about the fragging in-game leader of Prison, and we said, like, they didn't quite make it, but they're going in the right trend. Alex is, for me, not the guy that normally puts up the top frag performance, and he does it when it matters most for his team. So that, for me, is the isolated player that I think is really cool, like little storyline from that closed qualifier.
You know what's going to happen now, right? You know what's coming.
I know.
I'm going to tell you because you know what's coming. Everyone who's watching knows what's coming. You got to sell me this pro. Why should I invest in Alex 666?
Oh, I don't know, because you shouldn't invest. I think this is a case where you don't invest in Alex 666 as a player. You invest in what he's going to do for the whole team. And I think the reason why Bait works so well is because they've got players that have been together for such a long time, but also are young. Like, this average age is 21 on this bait team. You've got Captain Kirker that has been there for 10 years. Alex is actually the most recent addition to this team, being at 4 months. So you've come in at 4 months, and you've now qualified through to the RMR. You've got MPL that's actually been there. MPL's been there a year? Damn. Anyway, you've got players that have been there for a while that all know each other really well. They are grinds. They're like got that grind set. It's not so much selling the player for me. It's about selling the team. This bait team is very, very good, and are now starting to get the plaudits. Just please, bait, do not go to another RMR and go 2-0 and lose. Do not do it again, please, because I don't know if your little hearts can take it anymore. I don't know if the bait fans' hearts can take it anymore. My heart certainly can't. If you're going to try and make the major, just do it. Please do it this time. I think this is their best chance to do it with this team, by the way. This is the chance. If they can make the major, 3rd time's the charm. Is it? I bloody hope so.
We will circle back, as they like to say in corporate, to this conversation at the end of the season and the end of the RMRs. Bdog, this was a fun episode. I really enjoyed this. I like the change up. I liked us focusing on tier 2, and I'm hoping for anyone watching gets you a little bit excited about the RMRs, because now you know a little bit more about some of the teams, because I think that sometimes happens. Viewers tune into the RMR and they've never heard of a bait before. They don't watch the online cup, so they're not quite sure what they're looking at. This is obviously an opportunity for them. Maybe they don't remember from years previous as well. So a great way for us to kind of set the scene and the foundation. Thank you so much for doing this.
I'm sorry to say this one thing. I completely forgot it's not Alex in-game leading, it's MPL. So that's the little thing, guys. Don't roast me in the comments. I got excited. It's MPL.
I don't think that you need to be worried about that. Don't you stress. It happens all the time. So I just think that you were, like you said, you were super excited. Now we know that MPL was IGLing, but for the most part, are you excited? I'm excited now. I'm starting to get super excited for the RMRs. I think this looks like a really competitive group of teams.
I'm only sad Permitter didn't make it. That's my only last thoughts. I somehow ended up casting, I think, maybe 12 or 13 Permitter games in like 10 days. I don't know how it happened. The stars just aligned. I started to become the biggest Permitter fan. I started to see what they were cooking, and it was a great shame to see them not make it, because I thought they had a really decent shot at doing it over Rebels, and they didn't. So shout out Permitter. I know you'll come back stronger, but I'm personally very upset they didn't make the RMR.
I'll tell you what, I know how to make everything better for you. How about next episode we focus in on a player from Permitter? Does that work for you? Yeah,
go on. That works for me. I like the idea of that.
I love how I pretended that was off the cuff when we already know what we're doing in the next episode. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button and be back for that next episode. And also let us know in the comments what you thought about the RMRs. We want to hear from you.